Winter is coming.
Might just be the cold.
Winter is coming.
It's cold outside.
You don't know cold.
Winter is coming for him.
It's either me or this cold, and it doesn't appear to be going anywhere.
And winter is coming.
You look cold, boys.
Tis a bit nippy.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
That's cold. Winter is coming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cold.
It's cold and it's wet.
Winter is coming.
You're crying because you're cold?
You're a long way from home. And winter is coming.
I imagine you might be rather cold.
And winter is coming.
No, that's all right, I'm fine.
You're not. You're freezing.
And guess what? Winter is here. Almost here. He's in the studio, and we'll be bringing Russ on in just a minute. Before we do that, of course, we need to just quickly give thanks and address our sponsor, which is truehempscience.com. And you guys know the drill here. If you want to get some of the best CBD products that you can find on the internet, and I don't say this with any degree of superficiality or hype, the testimonials are in, the proof of work is in, third-party lab testing, and it is the #1 place where you can buy CBD in Austin, Texas. And Austin's one of the 10 largest cities in the country. So that gives you an idea as to what we're talking about here in terms of quality. Anyway, if you go there, check out their products, spend $100 or more. And here's your product guide right there. $100 or more. And just, type in a little 15 MINS. That's 15 MINS, and you will get a discount. It's not really a discount. It's your goodie bag. And the goodie bag has, goodies in it. It's like an order within an order. And he's got gummies, he's got topicals, he's got oils, and there's always free delivery with $150 or more. So there you go, truehempscience.com. Go check them out. Our good friend Chris does some of the best CBD work on the internet and off. All right, let's do this. Let's bring on the man, Mr. Winter. How's it going, Russ?
Good.
Good.
How's everything for all you people?
Well, let's see. How's the chat doing? I think chat is usually in a pretty good space most of the time. And I think a lot of people here are very happy that you're on the show today. Divine Guidance by Lisa Marie thinks so. She says, hi, all. I look forward to these shows with Rob and Russ. How about that?
Yeah, we have some fans out there.
Yeah. So
unfortunately, I don't think we can bring you our last show. We're going to have to deviate a little bit from the sweets from the last show.
Well, every now and then, Russ, we have to gnaw on the bitter fruit or the bitter root in order to enjoy the sweeter fruit, right? So that's what we're.
I always like your philosophical approach to everything, Robert, but right now I'm kind of in a really foul mood, to be honest.
Okay, here's what's going to happen today, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to get raw, uncut, unfiltered Russ Winter. Okay, he's not going to be holding back. I think his moral outrage is 100%. I don't want to say over the target. That's a bad term for this situation. but his moral outrage is justified. And here's the lay of the show here. This is what we're gonna be doing. For about the first half hour, we're gonna be sort of reviewing the first 6 months of Donald Trump. He came in on January 20th. And for those of you who are in the know and were there part of the breakdown of what was happening astrologically, it's the first time a president was inaugurated when excuse me, the sun and Pluto were conjunct in the sign of Aquarius right at the beginning of the sign. So for the uninitiated, it's a very powerful moment that kind of screams technocratic Caesar, right? That's really, the distillation of it, and this idea that Trump is ushering in this golden age, which goes along with Aquarius. So that's where it all started. And we're just going to take a look at the last almost 6 months and go over some of the major missteps, flaws, guffaws, reversals, the Taco Tuesdays, everything that's been a part of the first 6 months. And then we're going to do that for about a half an hour or so. And then Russ is really going to launch in on Gaza, Palestine, which is the real elephant in the room, right? And the mass starvation, the attempts, not even attempts, the Israelis cutting off the food supply to get into Gaza to starve these people out. So it's a hot button issue.
And the ramifications of it are also important because if, as I believe, who knows how many, mostly children, are going to starve to death in the next 3 weeks.
Right.
It's going to be pinned by the world community on the United States as well. And I think the United States association with Israel and having a Zog-run government is the end the end of the American empire as we know it, or the United States as we know it. I mean, I really do. I don't think that once this unfolds, the United States is going to come out well at all.
Well, here's where I think we're at with that. And we'll get into it when we get there. There's going to be an immense amount of pushback and blowback.
Right. I hope.
It's already happening.
Yeah.
It's already happening. Who is it? France just came out and really condemned Netanyahu and what was going on with the government.
Yeah, that's part of the process, and plus, also in the American media, you got CNN, you got BBC. They're all covering their asses. So something's for now. Something's in the wind in terms of reporting and all this stuff.
For now, I think at some point, you can only avert your gaze from the face of horror for so long, right? Because eventually it catches up with you, right? And then you start to see it everywhere. And clearly Gaza it's a horror movie. And that's part of it. It's like the main script. But events like these tend to manifest themselves in other areas of our lives where we're dealing with horror, and we don't always connect the two, right? We live in this world where it's sort of like, the modern medicine metaphor is what people would relate to. It's like, well, if I eat too much of this food that is got seed oils and genetically modified food, I'm going to get really sick. I'm going to put on all this weight. But as long as I go see the doctor and he gives me some kind of a pill to be able to manage it, I might be able to stave off the horror in my body. You can only do that for so long. It's like the horror will catch up with you at some point along the way. And whether it's direct with Gaza or indirect, and we humans aren't always the best at uncovering the indirect causation of things. But I feel like we're clearly at a tipping point. Russ, I need to take a 2 or 3 minute break here to deal with my cough.
Okay.
So why don't you go ahead and just start talking with people, interact with the chat, ask them how they're doing, show them how nice of a guy you are, and I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we could probably start on some of the data points. I noticed that let's go to my notes. I noticed that this morning there was a big, massive revision, to no surprise, of the jobs numbers. For instance, May, for example, was revised down by 125,000 jobs from 144 to 19. And then June missed badly. It came up about half of what they expected. And then April, I don't have those numbers here, but they were about the same as May. So there's been like about a shift of 350, 400,000 less jobs than they thought were in the economy. So that's going to be part of this Trump review. So there's this lag effect, because people really aren't getting the proper data. It's not being reported properly, and then they do revisions, and you get a day like today, and it's kind of a Black Friday type of day in the market because of it, and they act surprised. But we talked about this, 2 months ago, about the impact of Trump policies, Trump economic policies, Trump taxes, Trump tariffs. It's not going to be a big free ride where all of a sudden a bunch of manufacturing opens up in the United States, while the cost of things like steel and copper that come from outside of the United States, which is most of it, has a 50% tariff on it. And so it's just a nonsensical. Whoever's running the tariff policy has no idea what they're doing. It's very, very, very obvious. So it starts to have ramifications in the economy. So that's the beginning of my review, the 6-month review on Trump. So we've got a couple other data points. Trump's big arms deal to the Europeans comes unraveled. He goes to Europe. He claims that he sells them a bunch of weapons. With a lot of fanfare, announces a big, massive arms deal with Europe. And then we learn shortly thereafter that they can't get it through the finance minister. So he got the head of the EU to agree to an arms purchase, but the head of the EU failed to go to his member states because the EU doesn't totally rule the country. The finances of the country are run by in smaller countries, France, Germany, Czech Republic, whatever, Italy, and they're not going to do it. They don't want to buy a bunch of arms from the United States. So that's very typical of a Trump grandiose claim. Then we got what I call the Howard Lutnik scam situation. So here we have a story of Howard Lutnik. Maybe I should have, I'll have Robert run this when he comes back. So we're seeing the typical stuff. Trump is lesser of evils. So we're back in the Hegelian dialectic mentality that we have to choose between lesser of two evils, and back to that game again. Some of the comments. So I kind of covered the job situation and the big downward revisions this morning in the job numbers. And I think it's going to actually be revised again, because I think a lot of foreign-born people are disappearing from the job rolls.
How many H-1B visas have been approved since Trump has been in office?
I don't know. Do you know?
I think quite a few. And coinciding, by the way, with big layoffs at Microsoft and a lot of these tech companies. But from what I've heard, it's going just beyond Microsoft and the tech companies, like shift managers at Chipotle are getting these H1.
Well, and a lot of, tourism is a huge part of the GDP. And that's way down. In fact, I have a story up there. Let's just run that, because it's probably a good one to kind of give a picture of what's happening.
I saw that on your on
Vegas
your page. Yeah.
Let's just run that, because that's a good metric to kind of look at where we are. Things are sort of unfolding in the economy, and it is directly related to Trump's decisions and policies and performance.
Let's see. Vegas. Gaza. Flood warning system. How far? Where are we in the string here?
Yeah, I sent you a lot of stuff this week.
Yeah. Vegas is collapsing. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. All right. Let's pull this up. Here we go.
Well, hello. It's Vegas Police, and casino analysts are warning that things are going from bad to worse out here in Las Vegas. These negative posts are a dime a dozen, because all influencers know that negative information about Las Vegas grabs the attention of viewers. But facts are facts. And while this year started off slow, year-to-date non-convention visitation is already down 8%. The last 6 weeks, the pain is accelerating, according to Deutsche Bank analyst Steven Pizzella. June revenue per available room is down 19%, and the first 2 weeks of July is down 20%. When you have sold all of your real estate to Wall Street REITs like BICI, who own 660 acres on the Strip, you cannot afford a 20% decline in room revenue. The gross margin on the Strip last year was only 3%, and many of the larger properties pay as much as $20 million a month in rent. So now what are the casinos hoping for? Reduced interest rates. But that might not happen anytime soon. Caesars owes so much money that a 1% decline will save them $60 million a year, according to Pizzella. This story is from casino.org. The price gouging is legendary in Las Vegas. $26 water, $13 pizza, $50 parking fees, early check-in at crap Caesars properties is $60. The room tonight at the Flamingo is only $79. I just looked. Las Vegas locally quoted Smith Travel Research saying that Las Vegas hotel occupancy is down 17% in early July. That is the steepest decline in 25 national markets. You know that when the win is only $247 a night all in, which it is tonight, that things are slow out here. What does the analyst recommend? He says buy sports betting data providers, but don't get too clever with those because you know they'll throw you off those apps. As soon as you win anything, Vegas, Paulie see.
Well, that's a really, really interesting visual, because what that guy was doing is he was presenting a sports book in Vegas, right? And the online betting app world has really supplanted that. I mean, you could just get on your I can get on my cell phone right now and bet any number of games, individual props.
Yeah.
And I don't need to do anything, right? But the thing that he's referring to at the end of that is a really interesting kind of like sort of side narrative. And that if you get really good at sports betting with one of these apps, they kick you off.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, on your comment on the sports betting, when I went to Vegas when I was younger and more interested in sports and had knowledge of sports, I like betting in these. I spent a lot of time in these sports watching games.
I did too. It was fun.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And
they brought you some drinks and gin and tonics or whatever.
Yeah,
so
you have to hang out with a bunch of sports freaks.
So if you're going to go to Vegas, I mean, that's one of the activities that you do. That's the draw.
It was the only. So if you wanted to place a sports bet in the States, you had to go to either Vegas or Reno. Like you could bet on poker or 21 or play the slots in Atlantic City, but you couldn't bet on sports in Atlantic City. Like they didn't do that because it was too close to New York. So the whole idea of sports gambling, if you didn't want to pay a bookie, is that you had to make the effort to get on a plane, or if you live close enough, drive to Vegas or Reno. It was a commitment, right? It was a commitment to get. But
the thing of this, some of the data points he was talking about were the room revenues. So yeah, it's interesting that he has this empty sports betting area, very empty. I don't think I've ever seen.
No, it's because the dirty little secret about FanDuel and some of these other sports betting apps, and so the information is hidden purposefully. The NFL owners have stakes in these sports betting apps, right? Like Jerry Jones, I know for a fact, has a stake in FanDuel, and he's not the only one, right? So it's a really weird environment where you have ownership of sports teams that have ownership stakes in gambling apps. Like that never happened before. If you owned a sports team and you wanted a piece of the action at Caesars or the Tropicana, that was never going to happen, right? That was going to be shut down. And now there's just it's like this. It's beyond free market capitalism at this point. It's like, organized crime.
Okay, so that means that a segment of their revenue is just not viable anymore. That's basically what you're saying. What I'm looking at is international travel here, and I'm looking at that for the whole economy. Affect all kinds of big companies, actually big mainstay companies, including hotels. But that data point that he gave said international travel is down 13%, and I'll bet you it's getting worse than that because here in Europe, for example, people may want to go to the United States, but besides the negative press around Trump, they've also instituted a $250 visa fee.
Right. So
people are just saying, "Screw it! I'm not. I don't feel welcome there. It doesn't seem very welcoming. They're gonna gouge me. Why go to the United States?
It's like the Las Vegas vacation, right? Like starts when you come into the country. What that guy was talking about, like $20 bottles of water.
Right, just gouging people.
Right? It's the same thing, though. Welcome to the Vegas of America.
Yep, so it's a big wipeout. This is what this guy says. They lost their way, too expensive, insane charges on everything. Vegas was never that way. When I went there, it was kind of affordable.
Well, you know why it was that way? Because the mob ran it. That's why.
Wow, really?
Okay. Yeah, no, seriously. The mob ran Vegas, and they kind of ran it like a family business because there were families, right? And why do you think you were able to get these massive buffets for like $12?
So today the tariffs are actually going to hit. So up to now they've been kind of postponed a little bit.
Yep.
It looks like they're going to be basically 10 to 15%. He didn't really come up with any deals. He came up with a deal with Europe that's not going to happen because the numbers just don't make any sense. The United States doesn't produce that much energy that the Europeans said they would buy. And not only that, the Europeans
also how do you get it there? Right.
Well, yeah, exactly. You got to send it on container ships or shipping. But the numbers just don't add up because the demand isn't there and the supply isn't there. So once again, it's an example of Trump just blowing it, making up numbers. Just this big make-believe world and everything. And, for headlines without any reality check whatsoever. So I guess they conned the Don. They said, yeah, okay, we'll buy $800 billion. I forget what the number is. I have them here. Anyway, yeah, some astronomical number of energy to make up for the trade deficit with Europe. And then Trump declared victory on that we have a great deal, but it's just based on fabrication and magical thinking.
So here's from the BBC, and this is a very interesting picture. By the way, Trump has changed his high profile. Have you noticed that?
No.
He's gone away from the red blue theme. Usually he's wearing red or blue. Mm-hmm. Now his constant tie color is gold.
Oh, wow. What do you think that means?
Well, it's a symbol for the golden age. Like if you go to, this is actually really funny. Maybe we could look at this. If you look at the White House and where he's doing a lot of his press conferences, right, Oval Office, you can tell that he's been sneaking in all of this like gold filigree stuff, right? It's like starting to fill up the background. And Trump is obsessed with gold, by the way. Like if you look at Trump Tower in his penthouse suite, it is a shrine to Apollo, which is all based on gold. And he's starting to do this now with the Oval Office. But what's really funny is I found this video. Let me see if I can find this thing really quickly here.
Well, I'll tell you what my initial impression of this gold switch is that gold, that he's going to be involved in a big pump and dump on gold, that he and his Jew minion buddies have accumulated huge plays on gold, probably using leverage, and that he will do something to facilitate a big spike and a big ramp in gold. That's what it tells me. Not necessarily based on any economic merit to the country, but purely as an exploitive gaming measure. How's that for a theory?
Well, I think it fits, right? Okay, so look at. Here you go. Let me show you this. Okay, can you see this? Right here?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the plating. Wow.
Right. So there's this woman who went on to.
And look at and even the chairs.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. So this
Very
woman,
interesting.
This woman,
that's good because I have a lot of gold, so I'll maybe participate.
Don't count your chickens yet. This woman noticed these things right here, right? She noticed them. She said, "Where have I seen these before?" She saw them on the Home Depot website, and and they're white, and they've been spray painted gold.
Yeah,
this is not even real gold.
It's just a Home Depot job.
It's a Home Depot job. It's like some Fort Knox shit, right?
Look at the drapery. Look at the drapery in the one you just passed.
Yeah, I mean, so this is him, like bringing all these visual cues into the Oval Office for his quote unquote golden age, right? This is what it's about now. It's the golden age. Look at this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, everywhere.
And people are noticing it, right? Like this was Biden, and now you've got
the golden dawn,
the gold standard, right? The gold standard. But when I found this out, that was hilarious.
Yeah, that's it. That's I think you got pretty good theory there. I think my theory is pretty good too. The explanation of what this is about. It's a pump and dump.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to have to figure out if there's really enough gold to pump and dump, or they've taken the big position and made it scarce. And then they do a policy move in the government involving gold. That's what I was going to ask.
And that's a fix.
Yeah.
So that's totally different.
Mm-hmm.
And then they use leverage.
So that's a derivative move, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at Howard Lutnik. I want to show everybody what a scammer is.
I'm wearing my gold hat today. I got my own golden age going on.
I mean, speaking of scammers, let's take a look at his sidekick, Lutnik.
Oh boy, this guy's a piece of work.
So here's a compilation of Howard Lutnik promising you hundreds of deals coming in 2 weeks. And so it starts back in June. I think they ended up doing like 4 deals or maybe a couple more phony deals if you count the one with EU and Japan, which are just kind of big promises that businesses are going to have to make. The government can't make those decisions in Japan, that Japan businesses are going to be investing in the United States. That's all corporate. That's a corporate economy. The corporations run Japan, not the government per se. And so the Japanese government cannot promise to deliver the goods to Trump. It has to be done at the corporate level, just like at the finance minister level in Europe. So he's making deals with people that can't deliver. So let's listen to what Lutnik says.
Okay, so where is that?
The Howard Lutnik scam situation.
Is that on your website?
I sent my website. I sent that to you a little later. So I sent you a string of.
Okay, let me see. Story on Trump in a nutshell. Japan calls BS on Trump. 18 to 29-year-olds in the toilet. Here we go, Lutnik. There we go. There it is. All right. This is from Russ's fine website, winterwatch.net. If you haven't found it, go there, subscribe, get on the RSS feed. Russ does really strong work going down these rabbit holes. So here we go. The Howard Lutnik scam situation.
People are here's the problem with some of this stuff too. This is the source of this clip is CNN, which a lot of people despise. But don't fall for genetic fallacies. Just listen to what they present Lutnik saying. It's factual. It's coming out of his mouth as being reported by CNN. So just because CNN reports it, don't fall for what is called genetic fallacy, which is a fallacy that, you can't trust that source.
We're going to roll out dozens of deals. Oh, there are so many coming. And you're going to see deal after deal. This is going to start coming next week and the week after and the week after. We've got lots of them in the hopper. We're going to announce a whole bunch of deals over the next week or so.
Are you confident we can get these big the big ones, the big deals done?
I have them done. The next 2 weeks are going to be weeks for the record books.
No, that was just a couple days ago. So far, only 4 trade agreements have been announced.
Let's play that again.
So again, just over promising and under delivering. I think that's the 6-month review for Trump right there.
Month or so, we're going to roll out dozens of deals. Oh, there are so many coming, and you're going to see deal after deal. This is going to start coming next week and the week after and the week after. We've got lots of them in the hopper. We're going to announce a whole bunch of deals over the next week or so.
Are you confident we can get these the big ones, the big deals done?
I have them done. The next 2 weeks are going to be weeks for the record books.
First of all, for people, most people who are watching are aware of this. Howard Lutnik was Jeffrey Epstein's neighbor, right? Like he lived at the corner of 9th and 11th Street.
Yeah, right next door, wasn't it?
Right next door, and he bought the damn place from Les Wexner. So
right.
I mean, this guy knows where the bodies are buried, right? And if you don't think he paid a visit to Epstein Manor there every now and then, you're probably
he's all part of that network, billionaire network. So look at the story right below that. Lutnik's firm, Cantor Fitzgerald, is now run by his sons, is betting against tariffs by buying up rights to refunds for tariffs paid by smaller firms. So remember when Trump was putting in these temporary tariffs and that kind of overwhelmed everybody and people had to kind of come up with the money, but then they could be refunded later when the tariffs are finally set at a lower level, which they have been. Lutnik and his crew are speculating on that. You follow what I'm saying?
Of course, yes, of course. I mean, that's borderline insider trading, right?
Definitely, that's what they do. That's what they're doing. They're really a bunch of crooks. So that's part of my 6-month review, and I've been warning on that all along. I noticed somebody earlier said that Russ Winter isn't infallible. I'll tell you what, I pretty much am infallible on a lot of this.
Here's my issue with that conversation. He used the word deal, six times, maybe 7 times.
Yeah, right.
And it's what you hear from the Trump administration more than anything, and even through Trump's lips, is like these deals, the power of the deals. Like there's nothing more important than the deals. We don't know what the fuck these deals are, right? It just sounds very impressive. And for people that are into the power money paradigm, that's right up their alley. But what you don't hear from Trump is you don't hear any talk about the reinvestment of infrastructure in the country. You don't hear about the things that people really care about. Like there are cities in America that are fucking dying, right? Like if you were to drive through a place like Amarillo, Texas, that place is dying, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, yeah, you got some cattle stuff and maybe a little oil on the periphery, but it's just, another American city that's being turned into a ghost town. And this is never addressed by Trump. The idea is that these big, beautiful deals will come in and the money, will operate, be like a fucking golden shower, right? Just like raining down on everybody. And it's like, oh, yeah, Amarillo, you need $40 million to reset your infrastructure set up some new business models. No problem. We got it because we did these big, beautiful deals that we're now sharing with everybody. I just don't see that happening.
No, it's basically more fabrication and
it's just more. If they do come through, like, where does that money go? Who gets that money?
Well, they are gonna raise some money on tariffs.
Well,
and one of the things we were talking about on our last show, and we really went into this topic, is who's going to pay for it. Well, we kind of know now, and I'll give you the numbers. The consumer tariff paid is about 30%. So the hit on the consumer is about 30%, and which is not quite as high as I thought it would be. I might have thought it might have been a little higher, and that's equivalent to about 0.8% on consumer prices. The U.S. importers, the people bringing the goods in, are paying almost 60% of the tariff. The exporters into the United States are only paying 10%. So his claim that the Chinese are going to be paying all the tariffs just isn't coming true. They're only picking up 10% of the tab. 60%. Right. The big hit is going to be a margin squeeze, and it should start showing up in earnings soon. On the bread and butter companies of America, because they're paying higher prices for any kind of imported goods, and then the consumer will pay 30% of it. That's the reason they kind of backed down on the amount of the tariffs. That's why you had Taco, and they kind of backed down to mostly 10 to 15% tariff.
Right. And some people will say, well, that's what he wanted anyway, right? Like, that's where he wanted to be. And all this other stuff was to get to that number, right? That's just art of the deal, Trump. Do you agree with that?
Kind of, but I mean, what's the point? What was the point of the whole exercise? Just to kind of bully people and piss them off?
Yeah, I mean, I think the bluster and
but that doesn't build goodwill. I mean, I call the guy. He's like, his big mentor was Roy Cohn. He runs Roy Cohn Business and Roy Cohn Diplomacy, and I just think it's prescription for disaster for the United States. And that, and being tied into Israel, which is really
let's take a look at this for a second. I may not disagree with you on your position, but there are people, and some of them may be watching this video, who see what Trump is doing as a position of strength, right? It's like, we're not going to get pushed around anymore. If we're going to sit down at the negotiating table, we're not just going to bend over, right? This is what Trump is really good at. And so therefore, I'm all for what he's doing, because whether it's real or not, it doesn't really matter. The perception of it is what matters.
Yeah, because he was going to get pushback against these 10, 15% tariffs no matter what. That's true.
So there are people who applaud this. They think it's great, because in their minds, America has been shit on for the last 20 to 25 years. And in some ways, they're not wrong, right? I would say that there's probably some truth to that. And now here comes Trump, and he's not going to let it happen. Not on his watch, right? He's going to make sure that the American people, get a fair shake. And
the key point on the data we just read is that Americans are going to pay the tariff, 90% of it. That's the key point.
And you know what? I'm telling you right now, in their minds, they don't care. They don't care.
It's like a tax. You're on board a big tax on your consumers, and
what you're doing. Here's what you're doing. Is whether they're conscious of it or not, they're looking at Trump as an investment, right? So they'll invest whatever it is, their loyalty, their time, maybe their money, right? It's almost like Trump is a startup, and the startup is the new America. And so people in their minds, whether it's conscious or not, are willing to go there because they believe that it will lead to something greater, right? That the pain that they're having to take in the front end leads to more respect, more dollar dominance, whatever on the back end. There's a lot of sacrifice that is involved in the Trump world, and that people are willing to make these sacrifices, whether it's conscious or not. For some, it's conscious. For others, they're just bought into belief, and that, it may be rough at the beginning, but he knows what he's doing. I trust him. He represents us like no other president has ever represented us. And so therefore they are into the power of belief. That's my take.
Yeah, well, here's a good comment. D.E. Saccone, make America great again by spray painting everything gold. That's a good one.
Well, I just saw a picture of fucking Lindsey Graham wearing a gold tie. Look, I've got a gold hat on, man. Right?
On the gold.
It's rubbing off on me. There's something about even when Trump supposedly fails or falls short, people who are into Trump are much more willing to give him a break and a pass, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's been so much damage done to the country. And oh my God, just think if the Democrats were in charge, right? So he has like so much political capital to burn because of all the things.
Well, he's burning it. He's completely lost the youth, mostly over Gaza.
Well, so
I'm talking about the MAGA youth, and he even admitted it. He was admitting it to he was telling a Jewish donor. There's a tweet out on it. I think it was Miriam Adelson he was telling this to. That's the speculation that the MAGA youth hates Israel.
Well, it's not just the MAGA youth is weird. You have Zoomers who are
18 to 29.
The Zoomers are not afraid to be labeled anti-Semitic. This is a generation that doesn't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck whether you like them or not.
I'm telling you what, they're the only hope for the country now. The boomers are disgusting.
Whether you like Nick Fuentes or not, whether you think he's a shill or whatever, Nick Fuentes is the face of the Zoomers who basically said, fuck you to political correctness.
Yeah, this is not leftist Zoomers, not just leftist Zoomers, it's the right. So they're losing that support. And I think Trump has got to be concerned about it. They think they can message their way out of it. Charlie Kirk holds this ridiculous meeting with some Zoomer influencers and kind of engage in some kind of MK Ultra tactics with him.
They'll chew him up. They will chew him up. I mean, Jordan Peterson tried, he was into some kind of gangbang debate with, 20 Zoomer non-Christians. I think he was inspired by Lucy Blue, who was taking on all these dudes, right? Like 1,000 at a time. So he's thinking, oh, if she can do that, I can do that too. And, I can debate them all. I can debate every single one of them.
They killed him, right?
They killed him.
It's because everything's changing. This old narrative isn't working anymore. This ridiculous narrative has been completely flushed down the toilet, which I think is the lead in to what we should be talking about in the next half of the show, which is mass starvation. And I actually have an article called The Nature and Spread of Mass Starvation that examines what this is all about, how it works.
Okay, so there's a couple points I want to touch on before we go there. One is another reason why the Zoomers are turning on Trump, and it's the economy.
Right, that's not going to help, and that's just starting to unravel. So it hasn't even hit full force.
Right, they are figuring. Like my son, who is 21 years old, he went through. I've never known him to be all that political, but he's trying to get a toehold in life and make some money, and not stress out about paying his rent every month. We all go through that a certain phase in our life, but he went through the big beautiful bill, and he said, "This thing just fucked me." He said it really helped his donor class and all the people who are, on the 6-figure plus side who've supported him. Me, on the other hand, like even things like no tax on tips, like, yeah, it happened, but there's always strings attached. It's not straight across, no tax on tips. And he's in the service industry. He waits on tables and tends bar, right? So he's like, yeah, it's better, but it's not really what was promised, right? And this is often the curse of Trump. And to your point, over-promising and under-delivering. And then when it happens, there's this grand celebration. Like, getting back to Howard Lutnik, there was that press conference. They're on the tarmac, and I think they just got off a plane, and they were in Pittsburgh. And somebody asked them about Epstein, which we should talk about next, and then we'll move on to Gaza. And he talked about Epstein, and and he really, really dug into his base. Like, that's when it was. That was that moment when people, there's that meme from the movie Fridays with Chris Tucker and Ice Cube, and they're sitting on the porch and they go like this together, right? That was that moment. That was that moment when his base was like, what the fuck did he say? Like, he was basically calling them losers and being incredibly dismissive of his base. And Lutnik is standing next to him. Have you seen the clip at all?
I don't recall it.
Let me just see if I can dial this thing up. I mean, I'm not giving it real justice here. I'm usually pretty
While you're
good.
looking for it, I'll give you the Trump approval ratings from 18 to 29-year-olds. This is from YouGov.
Okay.
So February 7th, this is all people that age. February 7th, the disapproval rate was 45%. Pretty good. Not that bad. So the people are giving him the benefit of the doubt coming in. Now, as of 2 weeks ago, 72% disapproval rate. And the big shift has come from the MAGA Republican side of youth. Not so much the boomers. I don't know what the hell is wrong with boomers in the United States. I haven't really been around them that much in the last 20 years.
Well, that's a whole show.
Okay.
And look, a lot of times boomers are low-hanging fruit, right? And so they're easy to take shots at, and I totally get it. My feeling about boomers, not all boomers, but my feeling about boomers is that they're getting close to the end of their life cycle, right? And what they're doing is that they're kind of doubling down
on the status quo. Yeah.
Status quo and what's known and the power base.
Yeah.
Right. The last thing that they need to do is to, like be in this place where they're having an existential moment at the age of 75.
Here, I have a little meme video here. It's less than 2 minutes. Let's just watch it just for the heck of it. It's called
I found the Lutnik thing.
Okay.
Let me do this Lutnik thing, and because there's a lot to unpack in this Lutnik thing, and they're at this, and then we'll go to your meme. They're at the airport, and they're talking about money, but they're talking about a lot more than money here. So here we go.
Yeah, they're busy working, so we'll leave it at that. Go ahead.
Volume.
Sending out on Monday, Secretary Bessent said that it was a week extension and that rates could go back up to the April 2nd level on August 1st. Is that what we should?
Sending letters out on Monday having to do with the trade deals. Could be 12, maybe 15.
You're going to watch this whole 7 minutes?
No.
And I guess, Howard, I would say it could be maybe as many as 15 or so. And they'll be going out on Monday, and some will go out on Tuesday and Wednesday, and it'll. And we've made deals also, so we're going to have a combination of letters, and some deals have been made.
Starting a third party.
I think it's ridiculous to start a third party. We have a tremendous success with the Republican Party. The Democrats have lost their way, but it's always been a two-party system. And I think starting a third party just adds to confusion. It really seems to have been developed for two parties. Third parties have never worked. So he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous.
So what's Golden Key back? Golden Key back from Elon.
Go ahead.
What's your message going to be to Netanyahu tomorrow?
Well, we're working on a lot of things with Israel. And one of the things is probably a permanent deal with Iran. In other words, they have to give up all of the things that you know so well.
This is kind of old news, Robert. This is what's here.
The Atomic Energy Commission.
I wanted to get into the investment part about Pittsburgh and BlackRock and Larry Fink. And the other part of this is that Howard Lutnik is the new Jared Kushner.
Right, I agree. Yeah, he's the whisperer.
The word I used was the correct word: obliteration.
Howard Lutnik was
I think we're close to a deal on Gaza.
scheduled to be in his office in the Twin Towers on 9/11 and mysteriously never appeared.
That's right. Although the story is his brother passed away, whether we believe that or not, but because he was there. Yeah, one of the things that comes out of this is that, and I wanted to play it, but we can skip it, is that I think they've just gotten back from Pittsburgh, and they're crowing that they just met with Larry Fink in Pittsburgh, and he's talking about it could be an $80 billion deal, $90 billion. It could be closer to a $100 billion deal. But what the fuck is the deal? Right? And like Trump is such a star fucker, right? Like he's got to mention Larry Fink's name. He's got to mention BlackRock. And, I'm sure they're doing these deals, right? They're doing these deals. They just did a deal. What was it? Yesterday, I believe. And he had on his right, who did he have? RFK was on his right, and on his left was Mehmet Oz. Again, he's a star fucker.
Well, they haven't done a deal. They're trying to pressure the pharmaceuticals into lowering prices. And I personally, I applaud him. I applaud him on this.
That's separate.
Oh,
no, they did an electronic information deal where they are going to standardize everybody's medical records and the ability for every single institution to access those medical records. Like, so they'll have one operating system, right? They'll have one operating system, they'll have one mainframe database, and all these different entities will be tied into that, right? And so Trump is really savvy this way. And he says, well, I know there's a lot of concern that people think that this is too much information, too much intelligence, and is going to be too much like Big Brother. Well, we're gonna allow people to opt in if they want, right? So he's already saying that this is going to be a soft launch when they do it. But I guarantee you, if you go to some of these institutions, hospitals, emergency care, whatever, in the beginning, they'll have kind of a flux period, right? But that's going to end. And they're just going to say, this is how it works all the time. They're going to get on their computer, and it won't even be a computer. Well, it will be, but they'll have a sit down with their supervisor, and their supervisor say, okay, 30 days from now, the whole opt-in, opt-out function on your computer will not be available.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it'll go down.
Yeah. They kind of, I think they kind of have to. I don't really have a big objection to that policy.
Well, then
I know it's intrusive and it kind of gives a lot of information out.
They just come out and say it then.
Yeah.
Right. Like the most transparent government that we've ever seen. No, if it's like, just come out and say it. And
when I go to my doctor, whether it's here or anywhere, I mean, I want him. So I'm part of this, like what's called Canadian Medical, which is just a name for a group of clinics, and they're tied into the national system, the hospitals. All my medical records that I've had, my surgeries, are on the computer. And
but it's within that system.
No, it's national. So
national,
when I was in seeing my cardiologist 3 months ago, he was able to pop up the computer, and he didn't really know me very well. I was like, they kind of switch doctors a lot here. They're always giving you a new doctors. That's kind of a problem. It's kind of like a float system.
Well, so there are centralized databases, but they're not all connected. And they're not all connected.
Well, he was able to really get a pretty good idea of what was going on with me without having to just have me render all the information incorrectly.
I'm just telling you,
yeah.
If you're inside of a system, and it is a pretty prolific system, and you continue to go through those different channels, they'll find your information.
Yeah.
But if you were to go, let's say you went to, I don't know, you're in San Diego and you went to Scripps, right? Scripps may not be a part of that system.
Right.
So
that's not the way it works here. Of course, it's a smaller country.
Right. It's a smaller country. So the other part of this, which is the part that doesn't get talked about, is who gets awarded the contract to universalize this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That could be monopolized, definitely.
And then you get somebody like Larry Ellison. Oh,
yep.
Larry Ellison, the master of Excel and spreadsheets, right? Well, we could take care of that. No problem.
Yeah. And then you're back into the matrix, the Jew matrix again.
Absolutely. And Trump will say, and we've got Larry on board, and Larry's been doing this for as long as I've known him.
Yeah.
Oracle's been one of the
I get your point. I get your point. Yeah. It's especially for a big country.
So what, like there's an upside and a downside to centralization. I get it. There's an upside and a downside. And So this is the first part. They all agreed on it. This is where it's going to go. And there's going to be an opt-in, opt-out. I guarantee you that'll end. And it's like, just be fucking upfront about it and just tell people that this is the way it's going to be moving forward, right? You're going to have to opt in, and don't soft sell it like COVID. Well, you can either take the shot or not, right? I'm not forcing you to take it, and yet you have all these other social forces.
Well, they'll put some kind of condition of the benefits that are paid to you and tie you into how you're reimbursed and everything else.
Absolutely. I mean,
that's what's going to happen.
We're just hitting the tip of the iceberg here. So, let's wrap up this part, and then I want to touch on Epstein, and we'll devote the rest of the show to Gaza. We understand now how Trump does business. Trump runs America like a series of mergers with other corporations.
Well, almost like he runs it like a hedge fund.
Well, hedge fund, series of mergers, right? This is the sort of the wet dream of Donald Trump, and having all these really powerful friends, unlimited access to capital, right? Like lifting the debt ceiling to infinity so that, he could take advantage of something. And if he wants to throw money at it on a whim, he can do it. Like that's how he kind of ran things before. And his idea is if we have more money, more capital, we're creating more
of other people's money. That's
other people's money. And these
not his buddies, but they can leverage it on the government. It's the term for it is rent seeking. Rent seeking is just using the government for your own private gain.
But again, I never ever hear anything about Main Street, right? I never hear about. I mean, I think he was berating Powell to lower the interest rates. Not really for the people, but for the Howard Lutniks of the world.
Yep.
That's who he was trying to get Powell to move on, right? Like, hey man, shave that prime by at least 0.5%. And 0.5% for the Lutniks of the world, dude, that's like an incredible margin for them. So I just never. But here's what he will do. He'll do some things for people like, I really like the name Washington Redskins instead of the Washington Commanders. And I really like the Cleveland Indians versus the Guardians. And so that's where Trump connects him with the populace, right? And it's like, fuck yeah, man. That shit was politically incorrect. We want the Redskins back.
Well, that's the Trojan horse stuff that we talked about.
But that's what he does. Like he's able to work kind of both sides of the aisle that way. And to his credit, I will say this: he has definitely backed up his stance on no men in women's sports. That I will give him credit for. He's applied a tremendous amount of pressure, and that's been I think a good thing, because that shit was just getting out of balance and out of whack. But he'll do stuff like that, and he'll throw a few bones. In the meantime, he's doing all these big beautiful deals. All right, let's transition to Epstein pretty quickly, and then we'll get into the Gaza thing.
Well, the only thing I'll say about Epstein, it's pretty obvious that he's involved with Epstein, and that's what people believe. And and the polls show it. So he's losing there on the polls because a lot, other than boomer Republicans, the only people that believe his narrative are boomer Republicans. Everybody else is pretty much on board that he was involved with Epstein.
To what extent do you think he was involved with Epstein?
Heavily. God, he was with him for 20 years.
Well, I mean, throw out some examples.
Well, I mean, I wasn't there. I wasn't there at every trip and party he took.
But what do you think he would over
There's
that?
there's too many photographs of him and Epstein, or either together or separately, hanging out with very young girls.
So here's my take on him and Epstein. Epstein had access to huge amounts of capital through Wexner, the MAGA group.
Yeah, the business part of it's a big part of it. That's
Huge.
something that we're kind of overlooking.
Huge. Trump was very into it.
Right.
He was very into tapping into that network.
But he was also into the flesh business and trafficking and girls and I mean, look at all the beauty pageants and modeling agents, and he was introduced to Melania by Wexner. Wexner, she was one of his models at Victoria's Secrets. They're just too cozy. Too many cozy relationships.
I believe the correct name was the Elite Modeling Agency. That was the name of it. And yeah. So then the question is, because I have a theory about this. Did he screw underage women? And at what level did he screw underage women?
I think the guy at one point was screwing everything he could get his hands on.
I agree with that.
In the attractive category. I don't think he went for dogs, but
no.
Young and attractive. And that's why he had so much in common. In addition to business, the business part thing is important with Epstein and Guislaine Maxwell. I don't think there's any doubt about it. There's just too much evidence, too many photographs, too much socializing, too many young girls around sitting on his lap and stuff.
I think Trump was probably into 14, 15, 16-year-old girls. That's my sense.
Yeah, so he was a pederast.
And
not a pedophile, let's call it pederast.
So he's into...
But he was also into boys. I mean, there's indications that he was dealing with like 11-year-old boys or some stories along that lines.
Now, that I've never heard, but his association with Roy Cohn and Liberace, he was very close to Liberace. And that's where Trump gets all of his over-the-top gold style stuff from. Seriously.
I think it's kind of the price of admission for these guys too. It's Donald, if you're going to be part of our club, you got to play our little games. And so even though he may not have a natural proclivity for it, which I think he did, but he's going to go along with the program and let them compromise him.
So if you look at that 10-year period from 1990 to 2000, when he's heavily involved in Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, 1983 to 2000.
2000. Okay, 17 years. But there's a period in the 90s where Trump loses control of his empire, right? Atlantic City starts to go into the shitter. He has 2 or 3 bankruptcies during that period of time. He runs out of money for Trump Tower in Chicago, and he has to borrow the rest of the money to finish the project from George Soros, whom he never mentions, by the way.
And the Rothschilds.
We got the Rothschilds, Wilbur Ross. So you can tell that something's going on in his personal life because his professional life is going to shit. Right, he's losing control over his professional life.
But that gives the matrix, whatever term you want to call it. I call it the Jew crime syndicate. You would call it the matrix if that makes everybody a little more comfortable, politically correct. Gives them more and more control over him every step of the way.
Oh, I agree. What I'm trying to do is to connect some dots, right? Because his public life, he's involved in scandal. He's involved in there was a period where it looked like Donald Trump was going from a riches to rags story. Like he was like bottoming out financially. And the only way you bottom out financially in a world like that, where you have all this investment capital and all these people, is if you're just not giving a shit and you're doing other things, right? And all these other things have your attention while your professional world goes to hell in a handbasket. And they finally hit the brakes on it when Ivanka sets up the Apprentice with him. That's her idea, right? Ivanka saved Donald Trump's career, legacy, and life with the Apprentice. And at that point, he's starting to make money again. You get to see parts of his family, his buddy George, who's always there with him, his right-hand man, the humor, you're fired, right? Like that is a huge part.
Well, somebody makes a comment here that I'm going to read this. If he was involved with Epstein in a nefarious way, the Dems would have exposed it long ago. No, it's a uniparty. They had Clinton. They had him compromised. They had Hillary Clinton compromised. They have Biden compromised. They have everybody compromised. It's all encompassing. Anybody that gets close to the power structure of the United States is under this Jewish crime syndicate matrix. They don't care what party you are.
And it's not just Democratic politicians. You've got Bill Gates in there. And Bill Gates is a massive donor. Massive. Right? Do you think that they're going to cut off their fucking cash cow?
They got the British crown in on it. I mean, it's the cost of admission. Somebody sent a word out. Bill Gates, we have some girls here for you. We understand you like girls. Is that true, Bill? Well, not only do you get to enjoy yourself, but it's part of the admission to the top elite. Right. We're gonna have to have the goods on you.
Right. So
because we have the goods on everybody. So it's mutual destruction.
It's a mutual destruction program. And it's not just politicians. Have you heard this, by the way? And I promise we'll get to Gaza right after this. Have you heard that he is starting to leak out that he's going to pardon Sean Diddy Combs? Have you heard this?
Yeah, and probably Guislaine Maxwell.
Well, Maxwell, I think, is like they got to be careful, right? Like, because if she names a bunch of names and he's not on the list and she gets a pardon, like, okay, some, the fish is, the head of the fish is rotting and it's stinking. It's been around for too long. So they're going to have to massage this thing so that Maxwell turns state's evidence. Trump's not part of it. And there's a reasonable amount of time that she's pardoned if she's even in jail in the first place. So it's just, and it's a weird legacy. And now all of a sudden they're turning their sights.
I think Jeffrey Epstein is somewhere in the world still running this operation.
Jeffrey Epstein's still alive.
I think he is.
When it happened and I looked at this thing, I'm like, that's not fucking Jeffrey Epstein.
No, exactly. They said he was like 5'10", 240 pounds. Jeffrey Epstein was always lean. He always took good care of himself. And he wasn't ever heavy, so that didn't make any sense at all.
And 5'10" is a little high for Jeff Epstein. Jeffrey
Epstein was checked into the Metropolitan jail at 5'10", 185 pounds. And that's what he looked like every photograph you've ever seen of him his whole life. The guy who took care of himself. He kept the weight off. The guy that appeared in court in sketches was described as at 240 pounds with a big neck.
Yeah, it didn't look like him at all.
And then the death photos, the guy had a completely different nose. He had a doppelganger, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to send Guislaine Maxwell to hook up with Epstein wherever he is, because they kind of really need them both in the saddle because they have so much institutional knowledge. And the Jewish crime syndicate is really under a lot of pressure right now, as we're going to see in a minute. They need every man on deck compromising. I mean, the work is really getting difficult for this crime syndicate.
Yeah, it looks like he's about 5'10". I thought he was a little shorter, but he is maybe 2 inches shorter than Trump.
I mean, I would challenge anybody to ever show me a photo of Epstein where he looked heavy. Doesn't exist.
No, he took care of himself. He had a special adrenochrome diet.
They need both of them back in the saddle doing the operations. They know too much. They have too much knowledge.
Okay,
knowledge.
So we got the big Obama distraction. I'm of the mind that nothing happens to Obama. Where do you weigh in on this?
No, it's ridiculous. It's just a distraction.
Yeah. And Trump has already said, well, he's got immunity, and he's already backtracking.
It's just a distraction for the boomers who believe all this shit.
And he says
GOP boomers.
Now, here's one of those photos that, for me, it shows Epstein and Trump at very different height levels. Let me show this to you. This is, and I don't think it's because of the perspective here, but these are some of the photos that I'm used to seeing. Like, here's Trump and here's Epstein. Epstein in this photo is he's little, right? And I've seen more photos of him like this versus some of these other photos where they're not like that, right? That's the bullshit. Where they're closer and, it's like, I don't know, dude. There's a lot of sleight of hand in this world. Anyway, let's get into the belly of the beast here. So
okay, so we got the nature and spread of mass starvation article.
So if people are very sensitive to what we're about to talk about, I'm just giving you fair warning and letting you know that this could be quote unquote triggering.
It's triggering for me, and if I break down and get into tears in this, I hope people understand, because when I was doing this article, I got very emotional and upset.
It is very, very hard to look at. So just fair warning here. All right, so that's on your website, is that right?
Yeah, I sent you the link right at the bottom because I sent right to the last DMs I sent you, it's in there.
So, and this is just absolutely criminally underreported.
Okay, so what I was seeing on X was a constant refrain from these Zio goons and trolls is that Gaza starvation is concentrated on children and not adults, and therefore by Jewish people logic, the situation is staged and contrived. So they're basically saying, well, how come the parents aren't starving? So I checked with ChatGPT for the insights, and the answer is self-apparent. ChatGPT. Children's bodies are still growing and developing as they have higher nutritional needs. Children have less reserve fat and muscle mass compared to adults, making it harder to cope with lack of food. Plus, their immune systems are still developing, adding to susceptibility to the impacts of malnutrition. The process develops in stages. After fat stores are depleted, muscle is wasted for protein, which is why you see the emaciated bodies. Finally, once the muscle is depleted, it goes for the organs, which results in failure and in death. So there's a point of no return. Essentially, when you start going into tearing down your organs, your internal organs, it sufficiently wrecks it so that even if the nourishment is delivered, it's too late. So there's a picture right there, an illustration. You see that of the little girl? Can you put that on the screen?
It's not yet, Sarah.
All right, so she's her muscle mass is wasted, and so she's down to her organs. The final phase of death by starvation.
You know, Russ. You know, whatever your position. I'm not saying you. It is the universal you. Whatever your position is on the Holocaust, this is looking a lot like Holocaust photos here. Right? Isn't that ironic?
Right. Yeah. Well, they ran out of food at the end of World War II, 44 and 45. They didn't have enough food.
Exactly.
But this is deliberate. I mean, this is not the late stages of war, because Israel has the ability to deliver food, and so does the world.
You know, I talked about how not just the right, but the left maximize on the emotional currency of children, right? So if you go back and look at when Trump was president, you had that fake picture of AOC going to the border, kids in cages, and it's staged. There's no fucking cage. It's just a fucking cyclone fence. And I can't tell you how many liberal, I guess they'd be called friends. They're not really friends anymore. In places like Pennsylvania, who would bring that up. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding. There was a photo opportunity. It was completely fake, and it was there to tap into your outrage.
Do you think this is fake to any degree at all? I don't.
No. I'm going somewhere with this. That was faked, and they were using this fake scenario to tap into outrage of people who believe that the sanctity of a child's life is inviolate, which I agree with, but it was pure manipulation. Pure manipulation. The right does the same thing, right? And you look at the Epstein stuff, and one of the reasons why people are pissed is because there were children involved in the Epstein thing, right? And so what they were doing is they were maximizing the output of emotional currency towards children and using that to amplify the volume. And Trump is interesting with the Epstein stuff. He's never really fully committal. When you go back and you look at all the interviews, whether it's 2016 or the last election cycle, he kind of talks about it, but he doesn't like really fully commit. But he says enough to give people the hope that it's going to get resolved. In the meantime,
people just expect it to be resolved. You know, it's
right.
It's not even your choice, Donald.
But even if he is, you know, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, he's got these foot soldiers who are committed, right? Like Dan Bongino and all these other people, right? Now they can be all in, and they were. And so this idea, and it is not an unfair idea for the truth to come out around this, and to keep these kids from being exploited. And of course, there's the political side, right? So these children are used as emotional currency to essentially move the political needle. It doesn't happen here. Right.
Well, the question is, why are they starting to report it? So, I mean, I actually have a long shot theory that maybe the Sistema and are trying to sort of stage a coup against Zog. That's kind of my hope.
Well, but this has been going on for how long?
Well, it's getting intense. It's getting pretty bad lately. Since March, it's been slowly developing.
But
prior to then, people were getting fed enough. But now there's just too much of a shortage, and there's not enough medicine. There's not enough, medical care available if somebody does get in trouble.
Their daily lives, even if they got a requisite amount of flour for some flatbread.
They don't even have the water. They don't even have the water to make it.
I'm talking about the golden days of Gaza, like 6 years ago. Okay. They still did not have great lives. Let's just be honest about it. Right. And they were, in the crosshairs of, some wild ass IDF psycho who's been told, go take a few of these out. But my feeling about the reason why these children have been neglected, the left, I think, does a fairly good job of trying to triumph their cause. It's because they're brown. These are brown people. And
I'd be pissed no matter who it was.
But you understand what I'm saying, though? It's kind of like, and it gets into this weird thing that is biblical, and it's like somewhere along the way, with this whole Schofield Bible revelation thing, the modern Zionists and the Schofield revisionists have done a bit of a bait and switch. And originally, the idea was that Israel had to be intact, one state, and that was for the return of Christ, who knew where they were. He didn't have to go to two different places, and basically lay down this ultimatum: either you repent and accept me as the Son of God.
Well, there's something very important that's happened recently.
Let me just finish my thought. And if you don't repent, I'm going to lay waste to you, right? And what the Zionists did is they infiltrated the Christian churches. And somehow they were able to flip the narrative from them being under the intense scrutiny of the truth of Christ to it being the Muslims. That's what they did, right? And so now you have all this migrant outrage, you have the Muslim outrage, you have, and some of it, by the way, is well warranted. I'm not saying it isn't.
Yeah, so you got this extermination mentality that's developing.
Right, exactly. And these kids, unfortunately, have fallen into that camp.
Yeah, there's some Christian Zionists that say just exterminate them.
Exactly. Exactly. And
I don't know how many. I think it might be breaking down. I think that this hex, this Jew hex, is kind of wearing off on the population. I think they're seeing too many lies. They just lie constantly. They come up with excuses. It's Hamas. It's Hamas doing this stuff.
You and I, they cannot. Here's the problem. And it happened on Piers Morgan's show. He had this woman, two people. One of them, I think, might have been the ambassador of Israel to the UK. And he's asking all these questions that are very pertinent about children, starvation, etc. And he said something really interesting. He said, why is it that whenever you or anybody in the Israeli government are asked questions about these very specific topics, these very sensitive topics, you never really address them? You're always pointing the finger at somebody else. It's always somebody else's fault. Why is that?
Yeah, and then he also adds, why have you prevented the international media from going in and fact checking this stuff?
Well, I think he
lays that on them too, which is very good.
That's the secondary part, but it's like the fucking neon lights.
Well, it's because because these Zios think they've been given the Holocaust card to play nonstop and the anti-Semitic card. And it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work. And even their supporters are turning against them, which is a big part of my article. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so while Israel now allows some food into Gaza, this is the New York Times. Okay, listen to the narrative now. While Israel now allows some food into Gaza, it has drastically reduced the number of places from which food is distributed, forcing Palestinians to receive food aid from a handful of sites that are hard to access. In a crude form of crowd control, Israeli soldiers have repeatedly shot and killed scores. It's a lot more than scores. It's like hundreds, 1,000 so far.
I'd say thousands.
Yeah, so they've underreported the numbers, but they're still getting the story partially correct, which is really unusual for the New York Times. Along routes leading to the new food distribution sites, forcing civilians to choose between the risk of gunfire and the risk of starvation. So then we're going to come back to this contractor because everybody's got to listen to this. In fact, I got a better clip with him doing an interview with Tucker Carlson. So the starvation of Gaza is now at a stage 5 famine, irreversible. This is defined as 30% of the population in severe no-return malnutrition. We can expect the genocide to run into tens of thousands per day going forward. So here's an image of a 12-year-old that's starved to death. This is what they look like, completely emaciated. I mean, even the organs are gone.
Terrible.
Israel's kidnapped the Handala Flotilla in international waters. So you got people coming down trying to deliver food. Why shouldn't they have the right to dock there in Gaza? Why don't they have a dock there in Gaza for these flotillas to bring food in on their own, independently?
There was a big incident around 2011 where there was one of these ships that was coming into Israel to bring aid, and I actually knew one of the people that was on that ship. She was a filmmaker, and she was doing a documentary about it. And 6 degrees of separation here. She was the wife of one of the Goon brothers who owned the Cleveland Cavaliers for a while. And not only did they intercept the ship, but they got real handsy and real rough with the people on the ship.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, a lot of intimidation. Okay, let's take a look at these goons in the article down.
Do you want to play this Aguilar clip at all?
Definitely, but I have a different clip for you. I found a better clip.
Do you want to play this?
Let's just play this clip of the Israeli goons disrupting the food, stomping on it. Right below the Flotilla story.
Right there, or right there.
There's the Flotilla story, then there's these guys. Right below the Flotilla story.
All right, so you got to help me out here.
Okay, we discovered the Israelis had kidnapped the Hadala Flotilla in international waters. We saw that, right? We never opened. We never opened that. But we don't have to open it.
It would be impossible to win the war if we do not destroy UNRA.
Well, yeah, we can watch that.
This must be it.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That gives everybody the idea. I want to get through this because we're running out of time.
I want to see a little more of this.
Okay. Just typical shit. Really nice people.
All right, so let's say, for instance, this was North Carolina right after the flood. Okay, not a lot of supplies, and these supplies go in there. You know, people want to get water, food, and then this happens. How do you think this would be received in the United States? These guys would fucking hang. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, they probably would. Yeah.
All right, should we listen to this bitch?
Oh, we don't have to listen to it, but I'll explain to you what it is, though. So you have this lady in the Knesset who basically says it will be impossible to win the war if we don't destroy UNRA. So this shows how they set the whole thing up. They lobbied to destroy UNRA, made a bunch of false claims against them, and took them out of the picture, which then enables them to execute the mass starvation. So that's
UNRWA is what? United Nations
Relief, yeah.
Relief, okay.
And the source of the evidence against UNRWA are interrogations by the Shin Bet and IOF, who are known for extracting false confessions out of Palestinian versus via torture and blackmail. A senior Israeli official told the IX news network that Shin Bet and IDF provided information that pointed to the active participation of UNRW staffers, along with the use of the agency's vehicles and facilities in the October 7th onslaught. A lot of the intelligence is a result of interrogations of militants who arrested during the October 7th attack. Well, who were those? Who were these militants?
Gee, I wonder.
You mean you haven't interrogated the Hamas prisoners? You've been in Gaza for 2 years,
right?
And you have to get your intelligence from some alleged people involved in the October 7th attack? That doesn't compute.
And you've got this guy over here with a shit-eating grin going on.
So that, they lied about the whole role of UNRWA. And finally, even the New York Times, breaking news, Israeli military officials say they have no proof Hamas routinely steals UN aid, undercutting a claim that Israel has used to limit the food for Gaza. So you notice how the big Jew media is turning on them? This is interesting. This is July 26th.
Well, I am totally convinced that this 80-year curse that Ehud Barak started to talk about 10 years ago is coming to fruition. And
if so, then Israel's in big trouble if they have their main apologists. Their main apologists and propagandists are turning on them.
They're in big trouble. They were founded in 1948. Next year is going to be 2026. They're 2 years out from the 80-year cycle. And one of the things that just by noticing, Russ, like this is a country, and for the most part, not all, there are people in there who don't agree with it. For whatever reason, they can't leave right. I mean, so there are people that are not down with the program. How many? I don't know. I don't know what the percentage is. But by and large, what we've seen as collective behavior is nothing but denial, right? Denial at every single term. That's number one. Number two, you have persecution, right? It's like we're being persecuted. We're being persecuted because fill in the blank. So now you got a denial complex, you got a persecution complex, right? And in order for them to see themselves as morally and spiritually superior people, i.e. the chosen ones, right? They have to be actively engaged in some kind of eugenics program where they're eliminating anything around them that would be contrary to how they see themselves. And this goes all the way back, to the Bible, right? Where you had, the high priests of Judaism who would do all these cleaning rituals and washing rituals and ablutions and all that shit, right? Like it was this outward kind of manifestation of them trying to cleanse themselves of the darkness inside. And Jesus basically said, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go.
Well, I don't know where this is stemming from. If something is under the surface, moving.
It is under the surface. All these things are coming up, right? They're coming up.
And why is the New York Times exposing this stuff now? Where were they before? Here's the Guardian. Israel is yet to provide evidence of UNRWA staff terrorist links. So there's investigations that have been going on, including war crimes. The evidence has been out there for a long time. So here this guy says the New York Times was one of the first that laundered the genocidal hoax that Hamas was working with UNRWA to steal aid. The Israeli government directly fed this line to New York Times Mossad agent Ronan Bergman and Patrick Kinsley. They destroyed UNRWA, and now they admit it was all a lie. So there's a real shift going on here that is a great awakening of all these Zionist-controlled media. I mean, I just find it amazing.
I mean, so I'll use the sponge metaphor, right? At a certain point, if you keep filling the sponge with water, where's it going to go?
Yeah, it's basically got to come out. Yep. And so these guys. So if you're going to try to save yourself as any kind of semblance of a news agency, you got to get on board the truth eventually, I guess. Here the guy says even the satanic BBC is uncomfortable and pretends to care now that the world has already seen the ongoing Zionist extermination of the Palestinians. The October 7th lies don't work anymore.
What is your take on Macron? Now, this is the new thing now, right? The new thing now is Macron and France are willing to recognize Palestine as its own state.
Well, they've got the people that are up in arms. You can't just ignore the mass of people and expect to stay in power. Even the UK. So I think they're throwing Israel under the bus. Israel is in huge, huge trouble.
I
and the only thing that could save them would be a big coup d'etat and a sweep within Israel. I don't know if they're capable of it because too many of the people there are genocidal maniacs. But either that or they're just going to it's not the same situation as it was 2 months ago. And especially when little kids start starving to death in the corners of tents all over Gaza day after day after day. And we won't even know how many of them are going to die because there's no medical service there. There's no hospitals. There's nobody to even count them. The bodies are just going to stack up.
Right.
And, eventually they're going to be photographed and it's going to come out in swarms. I mean, it's already bad enough when you go on Twitter and I don't know if you see the images. I do. Okay, here's CNN. Let's just take a look at this real quick. This is actually really good reporting by CNN right there at the bottom of the article.
Right here.
CNN. That's further down. That's BBC. I already covered that one. Yeah.
Our team is feeling the effects of the starvation themselves. Our team wakes up every morning just like everyone else, wondering where they're going to get their next meal. Some of the things we've heard mothers say to us that their children are asking if there's food in heaven, if that would be better. One team member talked about seeing a girl filling up water at a water tank right next to a sewage area. So standing in knee-deep sewage, trying to get clean water. We visit families and say everyone in the family has infections, scars, sicknesses, all that from lack of clean water and on top of systems.
Israel's lost control of this network, I'm telling you.
Dozens and dozens of humanitarian.
This guy's a Jew speaking.
Doctors, journalists, aid workers are going hungry alongside what's going on in Gaza right now. And I know your team is having a tough time coping as well.
Yes, for sure. They're like everybody else. The little food that is available, that the March blockade that the Israelis put in also affected commercial goods. The little food that is available is extraordinarily expensive. Our team reported that a sack of flour was going for $480 in the marketplace. So it's just a tremendously dire situation.
UNICEF says that 80%, this is UNICEF, 80% of those who have died of starvation are children in Gaza. And now the enclave is on the brink of running out of specialized.
Is that Wolf Blitzer?
Yeah, he's Jewish. He's reporting on this stuff. It's amazing.
So, okay, not to take away anything from Wolf or CNN having kind of a come to Jesus moment, but when they start playing this on Fox, now we're in a major paradigm shift. Right?
Yeah, they may be. I don't think you necessarily have to have them on board. I think there's enough going against.
No, but seriously, that would be a tipping point, wouldn't it?
Well, let's shift over to Tucker Carlson's interview with this Aguilar guy, because that ties into what you're just saying.
All right.
Because I don't know how you view Tucker Carlson, but I mean, of course,
I like Tucker.
Yeah, I do too, and he's exposing this stuff. So right there, it says, just look at Tucker Carlson's face. The dude totally freezes.
I think Tucker gets a lot of unwarranted criticism.
So near the bottom, you'll see this Lieutenant Colonel Aguilar describes the IDF murder of Amir to Tucker Carlson. See it?
His name is Amir. I know that because when he walked over from the crowd of people, he walked toward me. There was two of us standing there, two UG Solutions guards standing in that area, and he was walking towards us, and we thought maybe he was hurt or maybe he was asking for some more food, because all he had in his arms was a small bag of rice, half a bag of flour, some lentils that he had picked up from the ground. He didn't have much. And we thought maybe he was asking for more food, or maybe he was hurt. And we notioned him over, and he came up and he extends his right hand at us. And so I kind of walked up to him and waved him over. And the guy standing next to me, this young boy, holds his hand and he kisses it. And then he comes to me and he holds my hand and he kisses it. In Arab culture, that is a very significant sign of respect. That's not something that
look at Tucker's face,
or something that should be. That's a big sign of respect. And we were taken aback by that. The gentleman that was standing next to me was also a military veteran, combat veteran. So he's been to Afghanistan, Iraq, and he understood. He was moved by it. He was touched. I was touched. And as he was standing there, we were both looking at him, and he was very emaciated. He had no shoes on. His pants were tattered. He had a kind of a rope or string holding his pants up. Filthy. Probably hasn't bathed in months. Probably hasn't eaten in days. And oh, by the way, when they walk 8 to 12 kilometers to get to these sites, the Gaza
pause just a second.
Provides no water.
T. Jordan asked, where the F is the UN? Well, the UN is UNRA. That's what we were just referring to. They were basically trashed by Israel and kicked out of Gaza. That's the answer to your question. Okay, go ahead.
Not a single bottle, because it's too expensive. Distributing water weighs so much that it breaks down the profit per cost per truck. That's a fact, because I asked why, and I was given a lesson in it. This is why. It's too expensive. So we give them no water. All of their food, by the way, requires water to cook it. Rice, lentils, beans, flour, you gotta have water. So what we're giving them, I don't know how they're eating it, but he's standing there, and I put my arm on his left shoulder, and I look at him, and I can feel the bones in his shoulder. I can feel the weakness in his arm. I can feel the vulnerability. I can feel the desperation. And I look at him, and I got down on my knees, or I'm looking at him in the eyes, and then I say to him, I said, people care. America cares. You're not going to be forgotten. People in the world care. And he doesn't speak English, and I don't speak Arabic. But the connection we had in looking at each other, he felt for the first time in a long time that there was someone that cared. And I got down on a knee, and he came and to his level, and the items he had in his hand, he sets them down on the ground. And he raises his hands, and they're small, fragile. You can see bones sticking, just the bones through the skin. And he places his hands on my face, and he kissed me. And he looked at me in the eyes, and he says, "Thank you." He said it in English. "Thank you." Like, people are starving in Gaza. People are dying in Gaza. These children that are starving and dying, these children, they look like everyday Americans. This child is picking up noodles off the ground with his bare hands because there was no food left. So he's picking up noodles to put into his backpack. Amir goes back to the main group, and he goes out the exit. We had a very strict protocol that they come in a certain way, get the aid, and then they go out a certain way. From the way they came in, it takes them back to the way they came in. The exit takes them back that same way. So they enter from the Morag corridor, they go south, they go through the station, they exit, and they go north to the Morag corridor. So coming in and going out, they're tied right back into the active combat zone. Site number 2 particularly is a little bit different than the other sites because it's in between site 1 and 2. And there's an IDF combat outpost just off the corner of SDS 2. So there's a berm that lines that road going out. So if people are leaving the exit and someone is on the east side of the berm shooting into the crowd over here, you can't see what's on the other side of that berm because of the obscuration, the field of fire. So the IDF are shooting at the crowd that's leaving. As the crowd left and they would hit the Morag corridor to go west, the IDF would shoot at them, shoot at their feet, shoot over their head. We would shoot at them, shoot at their feet, shoot over their head, shoot into the air.
Is there more?
It's real brief. It picks up. Keep going. Okay.
Hitting off the ground. There's video of this. It's on the BBC video. Hitting off the ground, see dirt flying up. And I was still on the site. I was below the berm. It was the second time we had done distribution. So when I heard the gunfire kick off, the automatic machine gun fire, I thought we were under attack. I thought something had happened. So I ran up to the southern berm and I laid down to take cover. I'm observing and I'm looking, and I see the shooting keep going on, like just the rap and Palestinians dropping on the side of the road. So Amir didn't make it home. He walked 12 kilometers to get some food, picked up scraps off the ground, because that's all that was left, because the 8-minute mayhem took all of the food. And by the time he got there, walking with no shoes, hungry and tired, the only thing left for him was to pick up some remnants off the ground. And when he left, he was killed by the IDF. Why? Because they lack discipline, they lack standards, and they lack basic human decency.
Okay, so this guy's a lieutenant colonel with 25 years of experience. And of course, they've tried to smear him very unsuccessfully. By they, I mean the Jews that are the Israeli agents. Have tried to smear him. And his rebuttal is really pretty impressive. So, Lieutenant Colonel, I know who I believe. If you're asking if I believe a fucking Jew liar versus this guy, I'll take this guy any time, any day. The former has lost all credibility with me and probably with most of the people in the world. That's kind of the point we're at.
So I have a kind of a metaphysical theory here. And it stems from the fact that genetically, the historical figure known as Jesus has far more in common with the DNA of the Palestinians. Like
Probably,
they're the true Semitic people of that region. And given that, if you can make that leap, okay, I can believe that, right? Then what are we really witnessing here? right? Is it just the mass starvation of a group of people? Is it the barbaric treatment by a callous and psychopathic government? Or is what we're witnessing a real-time version of a collective crucifixion? Is this what we're really witnessing? Because it has all the earmarks and suffering, right, of that one individual. And this is, if this rings true to some people, that we're entering into what I would call, for lack of a better term, a biblical period and a time of reckoning. Because the amount of pain, the amount of suffering, the amount of toil that these people, who again have something probably much more common genetically with Jesus than their Ashkenazim captors, there's something here. There's something significant and profound, and maybe at the core of all this, Russ, is that this is the message that is starting to come through, right? This is the message that people are finally starting to get, and they may not be able to translate it one-to-one, right? But if you look at the pattern, I think it's there. I think it's there. We're watching the ritual crucifixion of a people more genetically tied into the historical figure of Jesus than the people who are doing the persecution. There's something deep and profound and world changing. And I think that when you look at these people, right, one of the things that, and again, I'll never be confused with a Bible thumping Christian, but one of the things that one comes away with from the crucifixion is that the reason why Jesus Sananda is successful is that he's conscious during the entire time and loving and accepting of his condition and state. Now, the night before, he might have been scared shitless, but when it all goes down, he shows in some ways and demonstrates the same kind of grace and courage and acceptance of his situation that kid did with this guy, right? Like it's a very similar kind of output, right? Like there's something about the suffering and the pain and see smiles on their faces. I mean, this is where it gets kind of mind blowing. Now, do they revel in the fact that they're being systematically tortured and wiped out? No, they don't. But there's a spirit there of an acceptance, right? Like the kid going through the dirt to try to find the noodles, right? And it's like he's accepting his fate in some way. Right? He's doing it in a way where he's probably bringing the most dignity to that moment as he can. I think there's a parallel here with the cross and the crucifixion and the same kind of acceptance, aplomb, and human dignity. And I think this is what's starting to come through. That's my take. And people will hear this and go, well, this doesn't really make any sense. It's not one-to-one. I'm telling you, on a vibrational level, this is exactly what we're dealing with. Exactly what we're dealing with. And there are deep, profound, metaphysical repercussions for this. And again, is there something along the lines of a second coming? Well, I'll tell you what, man. If I was a man of belief in that world, that everything that we're witnessing there in that part of the world, that is ground zero for a second coming. That's how I see this.
Well, or that I see it more directly as an awakening, a global awakening, and a removal of this hideous hex, this MK Ultra hex has been laid over many people, especially in the West.
But you absolutely, but you can't have that awakening without some kind of deeper compassion, right? Something that transcends your culture, your belief system. There's something universal about this. It's not intellectual. This is not fucking, what's his name? The language guy coming about it with some kind of intellectual breakdown as to why this is getting into like the human heart. And this is where we hold these universal principles.
Well, I'll tell you what, the people over the next couple of weeks, the way this thing is going, that you're going to see a lot of this. You're going to see a lot of this. And I think it's just going to come as a total shock to the entire world when these crimes are revealed, that you just literally had a genocide, a large-scale genocide. And the main element is not so much the bombing. The final stages is mass starvation, which is a very painful death.
So Barbara brings something up here that I was going to comment on in my own way. She says some of the channels weighing into these tragedies indicate that there are special angelic entities easing the transition between life and death so the trauma of this situation is alleviated. I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to say that those kids are the angelic entities. That they are taking on the suffering of humanity, right? That's what's happening there. This is not some out of body fourth dimensional experience or fifth dimension. They are the angelic entities, right? And we don't fully comprehend that this is part of our family, and they've taken this on, this intense suffering and pain. And I think, to your point, Russ, ultimately, it's the wake-up call.
Yep. The Great Awakening, I hope, because it's really, I think, the only hope the United States has is the United States being associated with this type of activity through its leadership and its government is outrageous. And people are taking notes. People are noting who's on board and who's not. And it's kind of interesting to see the American media try to scramble to cover their asses a little bit. That's why they're doing it. They realize that they've fucked up and they've gone with the wrong side. They're on the wrong side of history. And it's kind of like, some of the Nazis at the end of the war, Well, Himmler,
it's another.
Himmler called off. Himmler called off these exterminations to try to save face with the Allies and save his butt. This is the same thing going on with the CNN, BBC, these corrupt Jewish-run media operations. So I think there's a real political thing going on here. It's some kind of real heavy pressure is being put on the Israelis, the Zog-run government, to clean up their act. You know, kind of the white wrap up of like what happened in World War II.
Well, you know, they had the show trials, right? Nuremberg and whatever.
Yeah, but Himmler basically in October 1944 called off the operations against Jews and other people because he knew the war was lost. That's a little historical fact, and I think there's some similarity, parallels here.
Hitler was in South America by then.
That's another show.
Have you ever been on a show with Harry Cooper?
No.
Harry's interesting.
Oh yeah, I've heard him though. Yeah, those are good shows. Submarines and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and that I mean, Spain had the submarine bases. They were there, right? And Spain had a relationship with Argentina. They had a relationship with Germany.
Yeah, they thought they got him out through Spain and got him on a submarine and went to Argentina.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Russ, how are you feeling? Do you feel complete here? Or?
Yeah, I'm fine. I got some of this off my chest.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. If this continues to just completely devolve into an even worse horror story that we're witnessing, which clearly it can. The idea here is to move those people out, ethnically cleanse them, get them somewhere near Rafah, and then, turn Jared Kushner loose and, rebuild the Gaza area. Do you think that they're going to be able to pull this off? Or do you think that as the weeks and months unfold, that we're just going to start to see more and more kind of crushing evidence and people, doing these, for lack of a better term, come to Jesus moments in their life and writing about it, talking about it, questioning it? Where do you think this goes in 3 to 4 months?
Well, I think it's just going to be a tsunami, avalanche of revelations.
Mm-hmm.
The criminality and the evil empire that the United States is. Unfortunately, that's what it's. It's not just Israel. I don't think the American people at the base level are like the Israelis. I think the Israelis are really lost people. Americans aren't that way, but they still have a lot of responsibility for what's happening. And that's how the world will always view Americans in the future, historically. People aren't going to forget this in a couple of years. No way. You're dreaming if you think this is just going to pass.
I'm talking by Christmas. Because winter is going to set in.
It's just going to be an avalanche of shit. They may take some people out. They may take people out and relocate them. It's going to be a combination of murder and extermination and maybe removing people. I think that anybody that has any money in Gaza has already paid the Israelis and probably already left through extortion.
Right. I'm going to go on the record. And I'm going to predict that there is going to be an event that's going to go down, and it's going to be so horrific that it will not be able to be explained away, rationalized, or looked away. And it's going to be a pivot. It's going to be a turning point in this whole thing. Sometime between now and Christmas, I would say, maybe keep your eyes on the eclipse on September 21st and the period thereafter. That's my prediction. I think we're coming into an end game in that part of the world, and it's going to have profound consequences for the rest of humanity.
I hope so. That's a positive event.
Well, I think it is.
Okay.
The Israelis may not, but I do.
So that's 2 shows from now. September 21st will be 2 shows from now to discuss this.
I'm going to AG DeVille. Will Trump be president this time next year? No. I don't believe so. No. For a number of reasons.
I don't think he's very healthy.
Well, I don't think he's healthy either, but I also think that I don't think he wants to be on the losing side of this Israeli thing, right? Like Trump fucking hates to lose, and he'll burn Netanyahu. Like this whole Epstein thing is tied into it, right? Like if Trump somehow scores this deal with Guislaine Maxwell, and she says he was never a part of it, right? And it's like, okay, we're good, we're done. In some ways,
and that liberates him from the blackmail.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And then he can move against the Israelis.
Right. Yep.
That'd be nice. There's something going on. There's something going on at a deeper level that's turning on Israel that I just can't totally explain, but it's happening.
Yeah. No, I think the reason it's unexplainable is that we're witnessing a cultural crucifixion in real time, and it's starting to seep into people's bones, whether they see it that way or not. That's how I see it. So, anyway, Russ, people are trying to jump ship. Thanks for being here.
Kind of depressing show, but everybody that hung in there with us to the end, thank you. Those that left early couldn't handle it. Well, what can I say?
Yeah, always a pleasure. We'll see you in a month, and you take good care of yourself. All right.
Okay. See you guys.
All right. There he goes, the great Russell Winter. It's always a pleasure to have him on the show, and get him all fired up. It's I think Russ and I've been doing this for a couple of years now. And I always look forward to these Fridays where, and it's mostly Russ, right? This is what he brings to the table and what he wants to talk about. Every now and then I'll interject with a few things. And, but this is, this is his time. So next Friday, we're going to have our guy, Crypto Kubrick, come back on, and looking forward to that. He'll take us into some really high strange with numbers and significance. There's a lot going on the last week or so with the death of Hulk Hogan, the death of Ozzy Osbourne. You want some rabbit holes? We got them for you next weekend or next week. And then the following week, it is the return of William Ramsey. And we're going to be talking about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And of course, the cultural implications besides that during that time, but also timely in a sense that Trump has now stated that he is going to open the insane asylums again, right? So it'll be a timely show. Anyway, thanks for being here. You guys take care of yourselves. Treat each other well. Love you all. We'll see you on Sunday night. Bye for now.